Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here this week to talk with Candace Taylor. The Dream Doula is back. I'm so happy to have you on the show again, Candace. I had so much fun recording your last episode. Um, so I just want to get started by first of all, asking you to introduce yourself for maybe those who haven't heard your last episode. And could you introduce yourself and could you also tell us a little bit about what you are doing in the world these days?
Sure thing. Brittany, thank you so much for having me back. I love your corner of the universe. It's a very beautiful pocket of space and time. And I always feel like we have really magical conversations on the podcast and otherwise. So I'm very grateful to be here. I am Candace Taylor. I have created a hybrid title for myself that I call the Dream Doula. And really, that is using this kind of metaphorical concept as a doula and applying that to supporting people navigate the journey of birthing and releasing their dreams. So I've taken birth and death doula frameworks with the birthing process, helping you to advocate for yourself, helping you to understand what that birthing journey is going to look like, helping you to feel excited and prepared for it, helping you navigate that birthing process safely, healthily, happily, and then integrating that new creation into your world. And then with the death doula process, letting go of old layers of your identity, layers of yourself, memorializing that person that you used to be, honoring that person, and feeling like you can have peace as you transition into a new version, a new iteration of yourself. And I found like those two processes, everyone experiences them. Everyone experiences birth, sometimes multiple times in your life as the person being birthed and as the birthing human. And everyone experiences death. That's something that's universal to us. So when I discovered the doula role, I was like, oh, that's what I do for and with people. So that's a little bit behind that title. And then in terms of what I've been doing this year, I'm in a very reflective stage right of my life right now. So I've been processing that. And this year, I worked on a musical, I worked on a indie movie, I worked in HR and employee experience through so many events and really fun parties and created a whole learning and development program for leaders. And then, of course, I have my business. So I've been coaching and in consulting in different businesses and with different leaders, really incredible visionaries who have like are in totally different industries, whether it's coaching, marketing, veterinary care. Like it's been kind of amazing, all of the people that I've gotten to support throughout this year. And I'm so freaking grateful. I was like, wow, Candace, you did the damn thing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, I love it. I love the update. And it's interesting as you were speaking, um, what I realized is as always, of course, the divine timing of this conversation in relation to my year. Um, I I have definitely been in a death process, especially in the end of this year. And I feel like right now I'm really in the death and I'm moving towards rebirth. I'm at like that still point between the death and the rebirth, which is like, it's not the easiest point to be in. And I just realized like, of course, this is why this is the moment that you reached out and we're going to have another conversation again. It's so perfect.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I'm laughing too, because when you think about the astrology of this, and I know we'll dive into this in the episode, the Pluto has just made a massive transition, one that is like notable for our lifetime. And it's just easing into a new part of our charts. So it was, and Pluto's the planet of death and transformation. Yeah,
Whoa.
and what's wild, looking at your chart, Pluto was rolling against your moon. Your moon is how you relate to yourself as your inner world. So it doesn't surprise me that you feel like you probably it felt like an intense death process. It's also in your eighth house. That is the house of Pluto.
Oh man.
So like I when you say that, I'm like, yep, totally makes complete sense.
That
That
is so wild.
really hits you. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's funny. I like as I go back to the back of my brain, I feel like at some point I remember that my moon is in my eighth house, and that's like intense.
Really intense. It's so intense.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, that makes sense. So I'm so glad you're here. This is a great time for me to have this conversation with you. Thank you. So I think we maybe should start by talking about um, something that you wanted to sort of address for my listeners, because I have so many people who listen to Coming Out of the Spiritual Closet who are newer to the spiritual path. And boy, what an epic astrological time to be new to the spiritual path, right? Like, whoa. So I feel like first, I would love for you to talk a little bit about like spiritual newbies and the burnout that can happen with that. And I just want to, I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many layers to this conversation, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that going back to this astrological transit, because it's really easy to like use astrology to contextualize a lot of this stuff. So Pluto was in Capricorn. Capricorn's energy is stabilizing. It's an earth sign. It's anchoring, it's grounding, it cares about thoroughness, it cares about articulating A through Z and really making sure that the integrity of every piece of an experience is there. Capricorn is symbolized by the goat and like a mountain goat, the kind of goat that can literally climb up a vertical wall, right? Like the staying power. And because Pluto was there, it was really disruptive to that energy. It was saying, you know, what needs to die, what needs to decay in order for you to have that stability, that staying power. And we can see this on where I'm in the United States, you can see this on like like the national level. You can see this on a global level. There's so much destruction and decay happening, and it creates a lot of debris. It creates, I mean, I'm thinking about the storms that we've been having in the southeast of the United States and really all over the world, massive levels of destruction. And it's hard to sift through that. It's hard to watch a piece of a building fall on you and have staying power in that, right? And so I feel a lot of empathy for people who are starting their spiritual journeys right now because you're combating a lot. You don't have the tools, the awareness, right? There's like a lifting of the veil and you don't know what's happening to you. You can just see it as destruction. You don't, for destruction's sake. It can feel really disheartening, it can feel really discouraging. So I have immense levels of empathy for you. If that's how you're experiencing this time, if you're like, everything is falling apart. Yes, it is. The good thing about this is it has a purpose. When Pluto shifts in, it goes into Aquarius and it's in there now. It moved November 19th. And this will be a very long chapter. It'll be there until 2043, which is wild. Like it will
Wow.
actually never go back in our lifetime into the period, into the area of our birth chart. So into the Capricorn part of our chart in our lifetime. It will never happen again. We experienced that. It was done and was going back and forth for a little bit. So if you felt like, a breath of fresh air, what the hell happened? Breath of fresh air. That definitely happened over the last year. It was going back and forth between the part of our charts it's in now, an area of our life it's in now, and in Capricorn. But we're now fully moved out of that space. Aquarian energy is revolutionary. It cares about the collective. It's activating leadership and the quirky, weird, queer leadership within us. So I love that. Um, all that to say, that is now being amplified for you. You're probably like, huh, I'm a little weird. I'm a little strange. And it's beautiful to lean into that and to honor that part of yourself, honor your queerness right now. We all have that layer that's being amplified. All that to say, in terms of like being a spiritual newbie, it's being okay with the debris, being okay with the decay. We're in an ugly season of life and it's finding the value of ugliness. As a Libra, I can relate to you. I can I can sit with you if you're like, I don't want the ugly. Libras love beauty. That's like a deeply rooted value for Libra energy, and I'm Libra sun and rising, so I really appreciate that. Um, but all that to say, it's like this is a time for us, is a season for us to look at the clutter, the debris as compost, right? So it's actually got a lot of nourishment. It's here to serve us. It's here to revolutionize us and to help us walk into a level of leadership, a caliber of leadership that really speaks to our legacy. It's not like a one-off, oh, that was interesting. It's this is my life's work. My mission is my purpose, my sense of purpose and mission is illuminated for me right now. Um, so yeah, it's messy, but we're capable of managing mess. We can do this.
Gosh, I just love everything you had to say there. Totally resonates. So let's say someone's listening right now and they're like, that's me, that's me, like you're speaking to me. Can you talk a little bit about um one, what they maybe want to avoid in this time, like habits in their life that might be um like actually sabotaging their ability to like get centered and move through the mess and the explosion that's happening in their personal life, and of course in a on a collective level as well. Well, actually maybe start there, or actually whichever direction you want to go. Also,
Okay,
what are things they can do? I'll just leave it to you.
for sure. For sure. That makes so much sense. So I'll say this. Let's start by characterizing who you are, right? Like you're probably really mission oriented. You're probably incredibly ambitious. You care about getting a lot done. You like in some part of your life, you probably relate to hustle culture. You're like, I want to get it done. I want to get as much done as possible. And I actually think there's a beauty in hustle culture. It's just gotten perverted, and we can talk about that on another episode. But like, it's been stolen and manipulated, right? So
Totally.
there is some value to like digging in and going for what your heart's desire is. All that to say, you're probably deeply empathetic. You care a lot about other people. You care a lot about, you feel everything. You're highly sensitive. And you probably have found yourself in environments where emotional labor is part of the work that you do, whether you're a caretaker, a parent, your professional life requires that, you're a coach, you're a healer, like you emotional labor is part of the work that you do. So I like to contextualize that so that people know who I'm speaking to. And I'm sure that your entire audience is like, you just described me. So some of the things that with those qualities we find ourselves susceptible to are, I think the biggest one is too much pressure, right? Like I call it Captain Save-A-Ho syndrome. We want to save everybody and everything.
Can you
And
say it one more time, because it's so good? I don't want anyone to miss that.
Captain Save-A-Ho.
Oh,
It's got to be from a movie or something, but that
it's
phrase
so
has,
perfect.
has
Okay,
been
go on.
part of my life. You're like, I've got the like cape and everything.
Oh,
I'm
I
trying to
hear that.
save everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
And what happens is we put so much pressure on ourselves that it often, um, it traps us. It cages us. It stops us in our paths. We like don't know where to go, how to move. It's like suffocates us. And it often creates a level of rigidity that makes it so that if we don't like go on a certain path, if we don't do something a certain way, we get stuck because it didn't go how we thought it would go. And like that's really hard when the world is collapsing around us, right? Like when life as we know it is falling apart, if you're too rigid and there's now a barrier in front of you, you got to be able to turn around. You have to be able to pivot and flex. And that can be really hard when the physical plane is transforming, but also the spiritual plane is we're entering a whole new paradigm. The rules as we know it are not going to exist soon enough. And I've been saying this, I probably said this on the last episode. I haven't gone back and listened. I'm ready to do that back to back, listen to them, right? But like this is a paradigm that's been emerging for quite some time now, and the rules are shifting. And if you're too rigid and clinging too much to the past, it's going to be to your detriment. The
Yeah.
last three layers that I'll share that are silent saboteurs, I'll just mention them, quickly. I think if you're not strategic, right? Like if how your movie is not contextualized by your why or connected to your why, it can
Mhm.
just feel really hard to sustain, can feel really hard to make meaning of. And I think in this new paradigm, we're really going to have to be able to make meaning out of what we're experiencing. If it's not personalized, same thing, right? Like if we're trying to do things the way that our mentor or the way that we see on Instagram or the way that we saw in the life hacks like course that we downloaded, if we're not personalizing those tools to ourselves, it's going to be really hard to find that staying power. And staying power is what Capricorn was trying to teach us, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be top of mind. How do we find the long haul journey? And then lastly, consistency is going to be so hard. And I think like the emergence of how we use technology has made it really difficult for us to be consistent. I think a lot of people are identifying neurodivergence and neurodivergent, like, different parts of their identities, and consistency is really hard there because we've been taught to, avoid ourselves and to feel shame about who we are, particularly with those type of diagnoses, whether they're self-diagnosis or not. Um, yeah, consistency is really hard, and it's important in this like life's work of aligning with your spiritual essence.
Oh, I love that. So immediately what comes up for me as you talk about that, first of all, it all resonates like 100%. That's something it's interesting that the way you talked about rigidity, that's one of the biggest things that I think over the last, I mean, several years, but especially this year, I feel like there's been this like plying of my rigidity, this like forcing it into pliability and adaptability, like almost like when you have like play-doh you played with and it's hardened a bit and then you like knead it until it gets like elastic again. That's what it feels like the world has been doing to me, and I think a lot of people. So I love what you had to say about rigidity there. And then with consistency, well, both rigidity and consistency, what comes up for me is like how, like how, what
Yeah.
what's your recommendation for how someone begins to make these shifts?
I think the old definition of consistency was routine. You do the same thing at the same time every day,
Yeah.
the same way.
Yeah.
And there's beauty in that. It's very Capricorn, right? Then the new way to conceptualize this is ritual. It's ritual. I'm trying to channel the same essence, but how I go about that can shift, right? Like I have a concept of a plan, to quote our president-elect. Um, I'm like, if I have to deal with this, I gotta lean all the way in. Concept of a plan is what honestly we get to move into this next chapter with, right? Like I understand what I'm trying to cultivate.
Yeah.
I understand different tools, different processes that help me cultivate that. And I'm gonna listen to myself in the moment, honor myself in that moment, and say, what do I need to call upon to cultivate that experience? And I'll give a little bit more of a concrete example because I know that's like kind of cerebral.
Mm.
One of my favorite things, I grew up Christian and in like Pentecostal church. Like I was in church for 3 hours at minimum a week,
Ooh,
at
wow.
minimum.
Okay.
And something that was really beautiful about the routine blending into ritual is that we would have some type of praise and worship every single week. So music, dance, really like loud opening up of the throat chakra, like so gorgeous and so wonderful. We would have some form of prayer. We would have some hymn that anchored us into our ancestors. These are songs that have been sung for hundreds and hundreds of years. The praise and worship was typically more contemporary music, though it ebbed and flowed. We would have some sort of sermon rooted anywhere in the Bible, right? Like it didn't have a specificity. And then we'd have some type of closing. What that those pieces of the service were plugged in with varied every time. But we understood, we had a general sketch of what we might do and what we knew what we were aiming for, connection to God. Because the Pentecost and really like bringing soul, bringing spirit, right? Pentecostals believe in the Holy Spirit, bringing spirit into that space, having a spiritual encounter. That was the purpose. And we would play within the structure to get that spiritual connection, to get that encounter with the spirit, which I was like, this is so beautiful. And like, while I've shifted away from religion as I knew it. I still really appreciate my spiritual, or my religious experience. That is still with me. That pursuit of ritual that guides me to spiritual connection, so beautiful. So I'm telling people right now, like, you get to design what your rituals will look like. What are the components of them? And that's a lot of the work that I do with people. And we're looking at it, we're building it into a cyclical, consistent basis. My clients are on my calendar once a month, right? Like, we're sitting down and saying, okay, what are the components of your ritual this month? What do you need? What do you value? What do you desire? What are you craving? Great. Let's like make sure that you have that structure there. And then you have access to all these tools that you get to play with so that you have infrastructure without needing to cling to it, the rigidity, and you still get to have this like playfulness and this as you aspire to that spiritual encounter.
Ooh, I love that. And I love that background because I feel like you have brought that ritual that you experienced, you know, every single week in your church, in your religious experience. I feel like you've brought that to your clients in this whole different way. Like, just like this, can you talk just for a little minute about cup of joy, I think it's called?
Yeah, daily cup of joy.
It's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think I've known for a very long time there's supposed to be some type of preacher quality. Like, I actually come from a lineage of preachers on my paternal side. So I've known there's supposed to be like this preacher essence, like it's passed down. I remember very vividly hearing from spirit, like it's passed down from your grandfather to your father and to you. And I was like, what? That's wild. And so I've known that's supposed to be a thread, and I resisted it because I'm like, I don't want to be a preacher. And my father also resisted it. Like, I remember hearing like that's why it was passed to you because your father was resisting it. I'm like, oh, interesting. That's so fascinating. And now we are kind of like, whatever. I digress. I won't go into that now. But all that to say, as a researcher, that's where my professional background, like in college, I was like, oh, I love researching. I love studying. As a researcher, it is my duty. It like, excites me to say, what about this is valuable? Like, let me study something. Let me find value in this. And then let me initiate it into some other area of my life. So I've studied the church and what magnetizes me to the church, right? It's charismatic energy. It's the joy that I experience. It's the creativity that's inherent in the Black church, the like creation energy that's inherent there. And Daily Cup of Joy is exactly that. It's this online community of people all over the world. We've got a centralized hub. That's our like kind of platform where we meet and we connect daily. There's a movement element of it that I really do liken to this idea of like worship, connecting to your soul, like being expressing gratitude through movement. We move together every single day. Sometimes twice daily, which is so beautiful. Some folks tap in twice daily. I do it every day, twice a day. And then I'm expanding this. We'll have a soul care workbook that really guides people through ritual, guides people through designing their own custom rituals. Feels really important to like give people tools, which reminds me of, like, I don't know, I'm a nerd. It reminds me of school. Like, I appreciate that school, like having a workbook to fill out and like, having infrastructure that supports me and staying the course. But really it's a gathering of people who care about joy, who care about themselves and their well-being, and who care about leaving a positive mark and having a positive impact on the world from a place of overflow, not from a place of depletion.
Oh, love that so much. And yeah, your daily movement meetups, those are oh, it's so good. It's just an immediate like raising of the vibration, connect, and again, like it's that creature quality, like doing something that really connects you with God.
Yeah,
So cool.
really important. And I think too, like as I'm going back to this Aquarian energy that we're moving into in a collective way, we Aquarian is like the contrarian of the zodiac. It wants to flip things on its head. It wants to reinvent things. And so it's not lost on me that we're taking the tradition of Capricorn and reinventing it, re-envisioning it, saying there's still some value here, but it does need to expand, it does need to stretch, and it does need to serve the collective. So this feels like I share that because we're all being nudged in this way. We're all being nudged to take something that's a traditional part of our lives, that's something that's stabilizing in our lives, and reinvent it and flip it on its head. And that's where you're going to be pushed to lean into. So investigate for yourself. Like think about what's in your life that has been a part of your life for a very long time that stabilizes you. And think about how you can transform it. You probably already are transforming it. That's probably a thread for a little bit in your life, but like that's something that we're going to be pressed into over the next couple of next decade or so.
Okay. All right. Cool. I love this. Okay, so um so this is Cup of Joy is the like the group platform that you have. It's like a community that you're forming. So can you talk a little bit about how you how you apply what you do to working individually with people?
Absolutely. Again, I shared that one of the kind of silent saboteurs is not personalizing this and not letting it be strategic. So I've probably shared about this before. I have a triple S framework, soul care framework, self-intimacy, soul aligned strategy, self-celebration. That is what I'm guiding my clients through.
Okay.
And what it looks like, I have like my primary offer that I'm walking people through is called the Soul Care Sanctuary. And we meet once a month to design rituals that help you go through that process. And
Cool.
it's such a beautiful experience. I've called in these folks that are like, listen, there's nothing wrong with my life. Like I love myself. I'm good in myself, which I think is a big shift. I when I first encountered this, it was like for myself, I was so tired of life as it was. I was like, just like, it was so painful. It was so exhausting. And now I'm at a place where I love myself. I love my life. I have a deep level of gratitude. But I understand that the more I optimize, the more joy that I can experience and the more impact that I can have in terms of my personal legacy. And those are the types of people I'm magnetizing right now in this offer, which I think is really beautiful. So there are people right at the threshold of like, I've got good community, I've got good systems, I'm making good money, I'm able to take care of myself, but I know that there's an opportunity to optimize how I'm managing and how I'm relating to myself. And particularly that I'm starting from a place of self-care first so that I can pour from my overflow. I share that over and over and over again. Self-care first, pour from your overflow. Because the what people come into it from, like the pattern, is I give, 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 give. I'm burnt out. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I know how to refuel myself because I've, encountered a lot of the tools, but I find myself depleted often. I find myself exhausted often. I find myself overworked, drained, energetically stuck and stagnant often. So we flip that and we say, no, you start from yourself, you fill yourself all the way up. And then what people are receiving from you is your overflow state.
Mm.
Anywho, coming back to like the tangible of how this works. So a soul care session, and maybe we can do like a quick version of this in a moment. But soul care session looks like you sharing with me some upcoming events, life experiences, goals, desires, needs that are on your purview. Then we look at the astrology, so upcoming transits that might impact you. We look at your natal chart. Um, I use a concept called annual perfections, which helps me to understand what what planet is your planet of the year, which is going to have like the most activation for you throughout that year. And then we move into, okay, let's go a layer deep and figure out, based on those insights, is there anything else we need to know? We'll use tarot to do that, like to pull out some of the stuff that's underneath the surface that you might be hiding from yourself, that might give you some clarity around how to um, specify or like make more contextualize the insights that we've gotten from astrology. And that's usually the first half of the session. And then the second half of the session is a split between accountability. So we say, here's what you said you wanted to do. Let's get it on the calendar. And I have a shared calendar with my clients where, you know, your daily walks that you or your weekly walks that you want to do goes on my calendar and I check in with you on them. The big milestones goes on my calendar. The launch date goes on my calendar so that I can check in with you and all of these kind of whatever you feel like you need, so that there's a sense of connection and support, that you're not alone in it. And it's shame free. I'm not going to check it on and say, did you do it? You missed it. Are you feeling bad? Like, I'm not interested in that. Shame does not serve us. Like, unless we're using it to be reflective and then move through, right?
Yeah.
So I really value shame-free accountability. I'm never going to make you feel bad for missing the mark, but it's like, okay, well, what happened? Let's get inquisitive about it. And then the last portion of it is we've typically designed some level of ritual, whether that's, okay, I'm going to wake up in the mornings, I'm going to set out a beautiful ritual that I've done in my life. I set out a chair for God and I sit on my couch and I'm just like, all right, whatever it is that you direct me to do, let's do it. And sometimes it's like, get your coloring book and color. Sometimes it's get your journal and write a poem. Sometimes it's just listen. Sometimes it's put on a song. Sometimes it's get up and move. But I have set like containers for myself to have that ritual, have that experience, which has been so powerful. I think the first time I did it, it was 6 weeks, and I was like, this is literally transformed my life. I can't believe it. So we've designed some ritual typically in the session, and then we'll try to do a little portion of that ritual during it. So a recent client session, we actually did some stretching because we realized she was holding tension in her body. So we did some stretching and curated a list of stretches that she could very easily implement in her life. And we recorded that portion of the session so that she can then use that as a tool. And that part of the reason why I want to do this in a cyclical fashion and have like a long-term rapport with my clients is because I want to help you build your toolbox in a personalized way over time.
It's so cool. I love it. Sounds amazing.
So
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. So cool. So, yeah, if you wanted to do like a mini show everyone what this is about, I'm
let's get
all I'm
into
all
it.
about it. I'm all about it.
Get into
This
it.
is amazing.
Amazing. Okay, so I have your birth chart.
Okay.
Um, why don't you share whatever you feel comfortable with? I know this is like into the ether, so whatever you feel
Yep.
comfortable. What's a core need, value, desire, something you're craving more of in your life that you're trying to call in right now?
Okay, let's see. I feel like, oh, it's so cliche, but I actually would say abundance. I have, I definitely have enough. Um, I, I definitely have enough. And there's like an expansion that I'm looking for. And when I say abundance, I don't just mean money, although I do mean money for sure, but I also mean, um, like for me, abundance is like, uh, space in nature. That's a big one. Um, quiet time is abundant for me. Um, abundance in, oh, let's see, in what other form does that really come for me? Um, abundance in time for connection with my community. All of those things. Oh, abundance. I would also say abundance in like experience, like sensory experience. And I do have a lot of that. And I am looking for expansion also.
I love it. Ooh, I love that so much. That's good stuff. What's cracking me up? Yeah. what's cracking me up is your Jupiter is in Sagittarius. Jupiter is a planet of expansion, is the planet of like exactly what you're describing, abundance. And that's where the Mercury retrograde is happening right now.
Oh, interesting. Oh, it's so interesting.
Can't make this stuff up. It's so good.
Yeah,
It's so
totally.
good. Um, why I mentioned that this time, this chapter, so Mercury went retrograde. Did it go retrograde today?
I think
Let's,
so.
yeah. I'm like, as we're recording this, and that it will be there until December 15th, I believe.
Okay.
So you have 3 weeks to slow down and cultivate this. And we'll wait a moment. I want to pull some tarot cards for you so we can fully design this ritual. But I would say your ritual is should have those components, right? It should have a money check, it should have nature check, it should have quiet time, it should have connection with community, and it should have some type of sensory experience. Right? Like those are the layers of whatever ritual. And I would say we should use the container of Mercury retrograde. Use these 3 weeks to frame this ritual. You should be like pretty religious about this ritual over the next 3 weeks.
Okay. Okay.
Any other key events, travel, birthdays that are happening? Let's look at like maybe a 30-day window.
In a 30-day window. Okay, let me think about that. Um, well, the big thing that comes up for me is my mother's death day is coming up in December. And that is always a significant day for me. And I always honor that day in some way. Yeah, that's the big one.
That's so beautiful. And I'm assuming it falls within this Mercury
Yes.
kit
Yeah,
as
it's the
well.
16th. Yeah.
Yeah. Or that's beautiful. That's like a nice, you've done this ritual, and then right at the end of it, you,
Right.
you get this like uh, ancestral anchoring.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
say we should definitely infuse her spirit into whatever this ritual is.
Okay. Yeah.
Just gosh, I just love this stuff. It's too good. It's too
Yeah.
good.
Well, and the timing on that is just so perfect.
It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to pull some tarot cards. Do you have any questions? Any like are there any blockages that you're aware of around abundance? Any resistance, friction?
I definitely have a story that I'm aware of and that I've peeled layers of the onion away with and healed layers of the onion. But I definitely have a story that um I need taken care of, that I need to be taken care of, that I am not capable of fully supporting myself. That's a deep, 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 deep story in my blueprint. So,
Yes, it
and that
is.
it, yeah.
Tarot card just indicated that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 So that I'm always peeling layers of that. And interestingly, that story is very connected to my mother because my mother very much believed that women could not support themselves, did not support herself ever, always required another person to support her. So it's also connected to my mother, which is interesting.
Mhm. Yeah. Honestly, I'll you get to see the card and maybe I'm like I have to find a way to share this with the world as well.
I know
Um,
this one.
I'm like jump in the Joy Hub and I'll feature this episode, pin it and pin this photo too so you can see. But the Five of Pentacles is a card that's all about loss. It's a card about grief. And it is a resource-based card. So this totally is like a reflective energy of I almost see your mother sitting here on the side of you spiritually and you looking at her and like just like listening to her stories of loss. There's something in her stories of loss that will help you understand how to navigate what you have experienced as loss. Because the reason that this belief exists is because you actually have gotten to a place of like of scarcity. And not like I feel so bad for myself. It's like, no, I actually don't have. You've been in moments of scarcity And those moments are designed to teach you how did you get there? Why did you get there? What led to them? There's wisdom in those moments. But we often, you can see this, there's a staircase here. You have to walk down to sit with this. It's like almost the underlayer of the earth, right? Like you have to walk down and be with this and be in this kind of quiet, dark, melancholy energy. And who wants to go there? Very few people want to go there, right? So I would say on that death day, create this space, like literally be in the dark. If you can, descend stairs
Okay.
and prepare to receive from her. Like ask her to talk about 5 experiences of loss that really impacted her. And if you can be specific and say, the examples that you share with me, I would love for you to highlight moments in my life that have been similar. Because you actually went through those moments so that you can get her medicine. You didn't need them otherwise. Part of it is healing that generational trauma.
Yes.
I'm gonna pull one more card from this. Yeah. Okay, great. I was hoping for a card like this. Also have the Eight of Wands.
Ooh.
This is all I might have pulled this card for you in a previous reading. This card reminds me of your energy.
Mm.
Um, but the Eight of Wands asks us to wait for a creative strike, like a spark of creativity. It asks us to concentrate our energy in one place. So as we're thinking about this ritual, I would love for you to I know you travel a lot, so this may shift, but find one location wherever you are to repeat your ritual.
Do that.
And
I will
and
be in one place.
I love that. And concentrate the energy there. Like it's almost like activating a portal of divine channeling,
Mm. Okay.
waiting for that really fun, colorful, vibrant energy. That's what we're leaning into. And it's funny, sometimes I think that like, I don't know, I imagine joy to be boundless and like go all over the place. How you're how you're going to be cultivating connection to joy and connection to abundance right now is actually going to be very vertical and narrow. It's not going to actually feel like you can see all of the light pooling here.
Yeah.
All of your actions should be pointing you toward one concentrated spot. And that's where like massive divine download, the massive divine inspiration is going to come in through.
Okay.
The eight is also a lot of like effort, is quite a lot of action taking. The Eight of Wands in particular, it's like let's put some motion, put some energy, put some movement into this experience. So we're getting some more color around what you're I almost like I'm hearing like Kundalini yoga. I don't know if you have a practice of that.
Mm.
Um,
I don't.
that could be something that's interesting. Are you familiar with Kundalini yoga?
I am, but I definitely don't have a
Awesome.
practice with it.
Yeah, I would say like some fire would be really great.
Um,
And the fire of that, the sensuality is like really tapped into creativity as well, or it gives us access to creativity. The like repetitiveness of that practice will help you break through. And what I love about Kundalini yoga is sets up the there's a moment where we stop before we get the breakthrough because we're tired.
yeah.
Kundalini pushes us past that. It
Mm.
anchors us into that. So it's like it sets, we're gonna do 100 repetitions of this.
Yeah.
Your exhaustion point is probably 30 or maybe 50, but Kundalini sets up the infrastructure so that you're gonna go past that exhaustion point and actually really get into the blessings, that abundant state. And
Okay.
that's what I'm actually hearing, like you've not fully felt the abundance because you stopped before the place, that
Yeah.
pinnacle moment.
That resonates for sure.
And then what's so interesting, they're also telling me you don't stop and stop moving. You stop and redirect your abundance to somebody else.
Okay.
So your spirit guides are trying to get you past that pattern of stopping. You stop pouring into yourself before it's time to stop pouring into yourself. You're like a perfect person for let's pour from overflow.
Yeah.
you're not going to get to a place where you're not pouring into others. And I think that's a concern for you. You're like, if I'm too abundant, I'll stop pouring into others. That's not the case.
Mm, okay.
You're going to start to pour
Interesting.
into people truly from that state of overflow. So go to the 100 instead of stopping at 30 or 50.
Okay.
It's okay for you to receive all of that because the other 70 or 50 that you were meant to get, now you get to hold that so you feel fully abundant. And then everybody else is going to get some as well.
Okay. Ooh, love that.
I love this.
It
Okay, so
resonates.
let's get into the accountability based on what I've shared. What are some actions? What are some thoughts? What are some of the maybe components of this abundance ritual?
Okay, let's see. So, my home that I'm actually stationary for the next about a year. So my home does have stairs. It's a two-story house. So it has stairs that I can descend. And interestingly, my altar is downstairs. It's not in the bedroom spaces upstairs. I made my whole living room into like a ritual area, actually, with the altar. There's no electronics downstairs. Um, so I'm immediately thinking that when what came to mind is when I descend the stairs early in my day, and I also shape my day so that I never have early appointments. Um, Slow morning's important to me. Having space in the morning's important to me. So I'm thinking part of that morning time could be descending the stairs into that sacred space. Um, and then, yeah, let me think. How can I incorporate? I mean, the nature piece works right in because my window in that room is um, huge and facing plants and nature. So that space has a lot of nature in it. Um, and so I think what I would need to figure out how to incorporate the quiet is easy. I have a very quiet home. Um, I don't have any pets or anything that can come in and take away the quiet. um, let's see. So somehow I would need to figure out how to incorporate the money element, um, the connection element. Although I do have, okay, I guess. Well, what's coming up for you as I say that?
Oh no, keep going, keep going.
Okay, so I would need to incorporate the money element, the connection to community element. I do have a space in that area for connection to ancestors already. I have I give offerings to my ancestors. But some kind of symbolic connection to like community, I think would be important there. And were there other things I listed? Oh, sensory. Okay, so sensory that I could incorporate quite easily because I could incorporate like I definitely have smells. I have things that I can touch there. It's beautiful visually, that space. And I could incorporate something with taste there as well.
Yeah. They're saying that your spirit guides are saying that's very important. They want you to be so intentional about that. They want you to know what are the sensory experiences I'm prescribing for myself before I go in. I'm hearing chocolate as well. I don't know if you enjoy cacao or like a tiny piece of chocolate. That could be something to integrate.
Yep, I do. I do have cacao always on hand. So, yeah.
Yeah, whenever that feels, it doesn't have, again, ritual. So it doesn't have to be the same thing every day, but that you should know before you go in, what are the sensory moments that I'm expecting to experience.
Okay.
Something funny that was coming through for me is I went back to look at your chart and your second house of money and your 11th house of community, you don't have any planetary placements there. So you don't have anything anchoring you and like to give you an immediate obvious like, oh yeah, this is what I should include. So that totally makes sense for me. What I will say is your second house of money is Cancer. So there is a maternal energy there. I would almost weave in a connection to your mother I don't know if that's asking her like what's a money story I can release, or what's a way to make money today, like having her guidance. Something about that one feels resonant because I think that I don't know if she ever gave herself an opportunity to figure out what she would do if she had to.
No.
I don't know if she knows that she is capable.
Yeah.
So maybe asking her for the guidance and letting her be this creative spark for you around
Mm.
money for the day. Like, what should I prioritize today in order to bring in money?
Yes.
And getting her wisdom, giving her the opportunity to be a part of your ritual and also to use her voice to guide you in that way.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to ask multiple times, right? We've got the Eight of Wands, so you might have to ask her 8 times before she tells you something,
Okay.
um, to help her open up her throat chakra and share with you. And then the 11th house of the Aries, Aries is your 11th house. That's connecting me back to fire. So I would say that's probably your Kundalini.
Right. Okay.
One Kundalini exercise
Okay.
uh, can help you activate and feel connected to community. And I
Okay.
would say, right, like perhaps that's you thinking about who do you desire to be connected to, who do you desire to serve, who do you desire to have in your orbit as you're doing that exercise. There's one that's coming to mind where you like move your arms like this. I can see you doing
Oh
that,
yeah. Okay.
like doing that 100 times and really just thinking about who do I want to be, who do I want in my orbit? Who do I
Mm,
want to pour into for my overflow, and get clarity on that as you do that movement.
okay. Yeah, that resonates for sure.
And what's beautiful about that, there's so many Kundalini exercises, so you can literally pick one and feel really playful. I think some of the spiritual people tend to, because we're so receptive, tend to crave like variation.
Yes.
And so if we can couple consistency of infrastructure with variation, lots of possibilities within like one
Yeah.
sector of our lives, it's so nourishing. That's why I lean toward ritual rather than routine.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. 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 I feel that.
So it's
Cool.
ritual.
Wow. Okay. This is awesome. I feel like this is something that I can implement very quickly, which is great. And I also love that it's not routine, like you said, because that doesn't work for me for sure. Like the same thing over and over and over. Very few things work for me if it's the same thing over and over and over and over. Like I need variety.
Yeah.
So I can definitely, yeah, I can definitely implement this. It really resonates. And I definitely feel, especially like this connection that came up in the tarot card with my mom, like the money connection, like that makes so much sense. And it just feels like you gave me like a really beautiful bridge from like what I'm aware of to like how I can work with what I'm aware of.
Mm.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad. I'm so glad. I feel compelled to, yeah. The whole purpose of this, by the way, Brittany, is um I pulled the Three of Swords, which is a really like it's like it can be a heavy card because it's representative of self-betrayal. The whole purpose of this is so that you can relinquish those modes of self-betrayal that are happening in your mind. So keep that present, right? Like I'm committing to this ritual because it will start to feel like routine eventually, right? Like there will be a threshold there. I'm committing to this ritual so that um, I no longer stay within patterns of self-betrayal.
Yes.
Sometimes hearing that, right? It's like this, you approach yourself with a level of tenderness that you might not otherwise.
Definitely. Oh, I love that. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you for letting me share that with you, support you in that, and thank you for letting other people experience. Um,
Mm, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, this is amazing. And probably by the time this episode airs, I will have been able to talk about where I'm going with this. Like I'll be into doing this a ways. So, either maybe I'll mention it in the intro or maybe I'll add something onto the end like here's what's up, you know? So it's perfect. Yeah, this is so great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Candace. I mean, that's amazing. I feel like, yeah, I have, I feel like I have, what was it? A concept of a plan?
Yes.
I feel like I have a concept of a plan, which is perfect.
He is wild, but he's very funny.
Yep, yep. Gotta laugh, right?
Or you'll cry.
So, right, right. Okay, so I would love to give you the opportunity to share how people can connect with you, how people can work with you. Um, and I'll put all the things in the show notes as well for everyone listening. You can go down to the show notes for all these links.
Yeah, I first want to thank you, Brittany, for hosting this podcast. You like, as someone who is resistant to routine, I know how painful it can be to like come back to the same thing over and over again. And I know it feels like there's variation in it, but like you are doing work that is massively supportive for the collective in hosting this space and in bringing people to talk and share and pour into your audience. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that. It is a huge sacrifice and it is a huge blessing to everyone who gets to be a part of it. And thank you to all of the audience who has been listening to this. Like I feel so honored that people hold space for me. A wound that I'm healing through is this idea that women should be seen and not heard, and Black women are heard and overlooked. Like I'm reorienting that. And so I think this is a beautiful way to heal that. I'm being heard and I'm having someone receive my medicine and desire to integrate it. And now I have proof that that statement is not true. So thank you to all of you for listening and being a part of my healing journey and my healing story. And being with us for, I don't even know how long this episode is, but it wasn't short. So thank you for listening this whole time. Anywho, all that to say, I would love for folks to stay connected, and I have an app that's called the Joy Hub. You have to type in or it takes you to another, maybe brings you joy, but not, it's like a adult site. So I'm like, make sure you type in the Joy Hub. I found that out recently from a client who was like, I looked for your app and it took me somewhere interesting. And I was like, tell me more. So the Joy Hub, please, we'll share the link directly in the show notes. But if you're going in and typing it yourself, include the. But this is a space where I share different joy prompts every single day. You'll have access to the daily cup of joy, which is that, that guided movement and guided workbook, so you can tap into this soul level self-care as a ritual, as a consistent ritual in your life, and a space full of people that are joyous, that are loving, that are compassionate, that care about the collective. And I feel like we need more spaces like that right now. So if that's something that aligns with you, it's free 99. So come on in. We would love to have you. And if you're curious about actually exploring this work on a more personalized approach, I do have something that's exclusive to, when I have podcast episodes that really feel resonant or really feel powerful. They're called Soul Care Breakthrough Sessions. They're $47, so super accessible. And we go through exactly what we went through with Brittany today, like a micro session. We're focusing on a really nano experience in your life and something that you're trying to call in. And we zoom in and we gift you some medicine, some intuitive medicine to help you navigate that period of your life. And it's a great way to, like, no strings attached, like experience the work and see if it's resonant for you. So we'll include the link for that as well. But otherwise, Candace.l.taylor on Instagram, Candace Taylor on LinkedIn. Please reach out. Please let me know that you listened to this episode and how it landed for you. I'm a big fan of voice memos, so slide in my DMs and send me a voice memo. Let's chit chat.
Yes. Oh, and definitely take Candace up on that because chatting with Candace is always excellent.
We've had some really good deep
Mhm.
combos, even in Instagram DMs.
Totally.
I'm thinking about this scroll of Instagram DMs that we had from probably earlier this year, I think. The big.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, Candace, thank you so much for being here again and sharing your wisdom. I encourage everyone listening to go connect with Candace. I mean, you will be so glad that you did. And everyone have a beautiful week. I will catch you next time.